Hi everyone, it's Bill Black, the Exit Coach from the Exit Coach Radio Show. You know, one of the biggest questions I get on the show is what exactly goes into a business exit plan and when should I start creating mine? Well, I always tell people that the best time to start was 5 years ago, but the next best time is now because you never know when you might need it. So we put together a free report that describes what an exit plan is and what you should know. You can get it free by texting exit plan with no spaces to 44222. That's exit plan to 44222. Again, text exit plan to 44222.
Welcome to the Exit Coach Radio Show, the show for baby boomer business owners who are looking for cutting-edge information as they plan their 3 to 10-year business succession and exit. Every week, we interview top professional advisors for their best tips, strategies, and precautions, so you can be well planned. And now, here's your host, the Exit Coach, Bill Black.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hey, my first guest today is Philip Arthurs. He's an investor, entrepreneur, CPA, and evangelist for acquisition entrepreneurship. He's spreading the word about why buying an existing business is the best way to become an entrepreneur and how it's more affordable than many people think. And as the host of the Business Miner podcast, Philip delivers gold nuggets to aspiring entrepreneurs, and he's excited to share with us today helpful tips for finding, analyzing, and closing on business deals. He's helping people become the entrepreneur everyone admires and respects. Welcome to the show, Philip. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you for having me on the show today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's an interesting topic. I think a lot of people want to hear about it. If you would, start off by tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you became the business miner.
Sure. I'll be glad to do that. So, I'm a CPA, and I have a master's of accountancy, and I've served in both public and private practices. And so I worked for two of the top CPA firms in the country in all kinds of capacities. But towards the end there, my time in public practice, I was a turnaround consultant, actually. I helped numerous clients turn around failing businesses. Or if we couldn't turn them around, we would end up helping them dissolve. And a lot of times it was just restructuring debt, things like that. So did that. And when the economy started improving a little bit more, there was more transactions going on. So I switched gears a little bit and started doing more on the transaction advisory side, helping clients in buy side due diligence. I was recruited out of public practice by a really large client and became their CFO to help fulfill their turnaround plan. And it's the plan that I actually helped them construct. And during that time, we bought and sold multiple businesses. So got a lot of experience doing that from that capacity as well. It was a different speed, though, actually doing it for my own business as opposed to doing it for clients. So I really enjoyed that a lot. During that time, we grew the EBITDA of that company 560%, and we doubled revenue in less than 6 years. And that company just recently sold, and so now I'm working towards coaching up an army of qualified small business buyers, and I've actually even built a solid team of guys that I'm going to work with to raise capital and purchase businesses in about the $1 million to $10 million in revenue range. So that's just my little background there of how I became a business miner.
That's great. There's a lot of businesses that are coming up for sale. Obviously, a lot of baby boomers out there, and
yep.
A lot of them are in a place where that I talk to. They're in a place of saying, I just don't know if I can get what I need to get for it right now. I need to drive that EBITDA up. I need to drive those revenues and profits up. What are some of the key things that you can tell our listeners about the situations you find a lot of people in that where they're maybe holding themselves back, and maybe some things that you find that you can help them do?
Yeah, I mean, prime example. So, I've put in multiple offers on businesses recently, and actually went to the guy's office to talk to him, me and a guy that I partner with who has a ton of M&A experience as well. But we went up there and talked to him, and his books and records were horrible. He lived out of the business. He didn't report all of his earnings, and expected us to pay based on what he actually made in the business, which we'd love to do, but we have no way to really verify that. You know, a lot of it was cash. It never went to the bank accounts. It didn't hit his P&L. It wasn't on his tax return. So I know there's a lot of people that live out of their businesses, and I get that. But you know, I'd say limit the amount of for at least 3 years. You need to have solid books and records if you want to get a fair valuation.
Yeah, because you're telling somebody, hey, trust me, this is a great business, and the of course the buyer's saying, well, show me, or why should I trust you? I mean, you're trying to get a large valuation out of this business. But a lot of owners, you know, of course, they try to do things, and maybe, you know, they go to their CPA like you to kill their taxes as much as possible at the end of each year. And so when it comes time to, that's why you always say, yeah, you need 3 years to get your business ready for sale. It's a great business for you. It's a little money machine, but to a buyer, they've got, you know, you've got competition. You've got other people that are selling their businesses too. So you're not the only one in the bidding room. So you need to stand out and look great to a buyer, right?
Absolutely. And when we go and look at a business, we look at the industry, we do some research. There's typically some sort of multiple of EBITDA or seller's discretionary earnings, and we want to offer a fair for that, and that's how I coach my students. Like we can go in and offer a fair price, but so that you got a pretty constant multiple. The only other thing that's really going to change is that net income EBITDA number. And if you don't report all your earnings, you're really messing yourself over. Right.
But that means paying taxes. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to pay tax. Well, you can't have it both ways a lot of the time. So one of the things that you're doing that's really cool is you're helping business sellers through your podcast and coaching program. Tell us about those offerings.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, I was a CFO of this really large company, and we ended up selling. So I'm no longer doing that, and I'm focusing full time on coaching people. I have 2 guys that I'm working with right now, so it's relatively new. I have a lot of experience in it, but my actual coaching program out on my own is relatively new. So I've got a couple guys I'm working with right now, and my podcast will release. I've already recorded a bunch of episodes, but I have not released it yet. That'll be releasing probably beginning of 2021. January 2021, and I'm going to interview people who have actually bought businesses. I'm also interviewing turnaround advisors, M&A tax guys, M&A attorneys, and a lot of these, I'd say majority of these guys that I'm interviewing that are in those kind of roles right now have actually bought businesses themselves. I mean, the M&A attorney that I'm interviewing, he's one of the guys that's he's going to be on our team of guys that I put together to go out and buy our own businesses. But he's bought several companies. So he's got not only experience with helping clients, but also in his own business acquisitions. So the team that I'm pulling together, it's going to be a phenomenal team, and they're also going to help out on the coaching program side. So I'll be bringing in people that are much smarter than I am to help with certain specific things. So the goal of the coaching program is to get people in, and we're going to help them find deals. How do you find these deals? And then how do you fund them? And believe it or not, Bill, you can actually buy a business with little to no money out of your own pocket. And so, you know, so with an element of seller financing.
Gary Beck.
And then we're going to help them, walk them through the closing process, because you've got your preliminary due diligence and then you've got your confirmatory due diligence. So someone that comes into our coaching program should expect to come out with having multiple offers made on businesses and hopefully getting really close towards pulling the trigger on buying a business. And we're gonna help with helping people find funding for their business. So we're going to go the extra mile with people. And then after they complete that coaching program, they will have they will have the opportunity to enter into a mastermind group to get, okay, now we've bought a business, now what? What are we going to do next? So kind of coach them through, you got a business, now how do you make that business thrive?
That's great. You're helping both sides of the party. A lot of these business owners, of course, it's going to be maybe their first and only time selling a business, where if they can listen to people who have bought or sold many businesses, they can learn from their mistakes. That's always very valuable. Are you yourself
Absolutely.
looking to purchase businesses in this endeavor?
Absolutely. And through the coaching program, we might find a candidate that we feel like would be a good fit for us to work with, and we might actually help fund that candidate's business acquisition, and we would come in with an equity stake into that business. Or if there's any of your listeners that are looking to sell, about ready to sell, we would certainly love the opportunities. We're looking for businesses in the $1 million to $10 million in revenue range, and I really don't care about what industry. We like to look at everything. That 1 to 10 million is important, because once you get over 10 million in revenue, you start getting the big dogs start looking at it, and they'll price you out. So that's why. And then the million is important, because there's a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome to get to $1 million. And the research shows that, I think it was Vern Harnish with Scaling Up. He had mentioned that only 4% of businesses ever make it to over $1 million in revenue. So that's I like that $1 million to 10 million sweet spot.
Yeah, you can find a lot of potential gems there, and maybe even merge a couple businesses together and make a bigger business and sell it yourself. That's a great idea. So what are you looking for management-wise? A lot of those smaller businesses have an owner that wears many hats. So are you looking for any particular management structure, key people, that type of thing in those kind of deals?
Obviously, it's a much better deal if there's good management in place, and we do prefer that. But part of the vision on the coaching program is we might get a guy or a gal in that wants to buy a business. Maybe they don't know what they want, and we find a really good opportunity, and they're okay being an owner manager, and we could put them in that management spot and coach them through running that business. So the group of guys I've assembled will act as like a board of directors in a way. We'll also be in charge of raising money on the back end from limited partners to invest in these bigger deals. So there's a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different ways we can look at it. So we're not picky. I just say the 1 to 10 million in revenue is important, but outside of that, and then we would probably look at some less than $1 million, because we'll have students that'll want those kind of opportunities.
Okay. So, what advice would you provide to business owners looking to exit their business, say, in the next 3 to 10 years, which is a lot of our audience, by the way?
Next 3 to 10 years. Well, if you don't have a really good CPA, get one. Make sure your books and records are clean. If you can afford an audit, I'm thinking an audit would be a good thing, just to make sure your books are in great shape, because when you get into the due diligence side, especially on the confirmatory side, and you're sitting there and you've got an advisor in there sifting through your records and things don't start adding up, the buyer starts losing confidence. The price, might have to be adjusted to get some of that confidence back. So that's one thing. Another thing is, I've seen a lot of deals killed by attorneys. There's a lot of good attorneys out there, don't get me wrong, but my advice is down with the seller, and the buyer and the seller need to sit down, and they need to have a discussion. What's important to each party? Try to get it on paper. We've actually got a free letter of intent template out there for your listeners if they want it, on thebusinessminer.com/exit, and we'll provide that out there. And there's also a link for schedule a free 30-minute consultation. So if somebody's looking to sell, business, they can schedule a call with us to discuss that as well.
Let me backtrack a second.
Yeah,
Well, let me backtrack a second, and then we'll come back to that. One of the things you said was make sure you have a good CPA. How do I know if I have a good CPA, Philip?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, a good CPA should contact with you throughout the year. They should almost act as if they owned your business. They should have your best interest at heart. They're usually not very cheap, so that's the downside. But a good the tax guy we used at the company I just left, he saved us thousands and thousands of dollars over and above what we paid for his services. So a good CPA is going to save you money and have your best interest at heart. I think people typically can tell if they've got a good one. That's what I would think. But
one thing I found.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
One thing I found is CPAs aren't mind readers, so they don't know. If you're getting serious about wanting to exit your business in the next few years, you need to tell them, right? Because that might change how they do things quite a bit.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in public practice, hearing a partner down the hall, like, golly, I can't believe they didn't tell me they were selling or they were getting ready to buy a business. Like, if you were thinking about buying or selling a business, you 100% need to go talk to your advisor today, your CPA, and let them know, because there's all kinds of tax considerations, and you'd be better off getting ahead of that. So I agree with that. And then to my second point, I also wanted to add that once you've got everything in place with agreement on terms and everything, then look at attorney involved towards the end. After everything's been hashed out, you've sat down, you've had a conversation with the other person. Too many acquisitions are cold. They're cold. You've got, and it's geared the way for the most part in this small business space in our country. The way it's geared, you'll have a lot of times there's a broker involved, and they're listing the business for sale, and maybe they have an attorney. Then you got a buyer, right, who may not be healthy and may not be able to afford, buying services from a buy-side advisor or having an attorney to help them. So a lot of times the buyer's left with working with the seller's broker, and the seller's broker has the seller's best interest at heart, right? And so is the attorney. So everything's geared more towards the seller, and the buyer is over here left kind of on an island and left to feel process, and they get a lot of cold feet. The research shows that 70 to 80% of businesses that try to sell ultimately never close. They just fall flat.
Yeah,
there's no succession
I've heard
plan
that.
in place. Yeah, there's no succession plan. There's nobody that wants or can or has the ability to buy the business. And I was in the middle of negotiations with this guy to buy his business, about a $1.3 million in revenue business, and he just was hard to deal with, really hard. He just, so that's another thing. Just don't be hard to if you're trying to sell a business. Don't be hard to deal with, because it makes it. I felt like he was hiding stuff. I felt like the business the value wasn't as high as he said it was, because I just didn't feel right about it. So I ended up not closing on that deal. So
it probably depends on who the buyer conversation, where that starts, because a lot of people get phone calls, right? I want to buy your business, and if they start down the road, they're nervous that somebody's just trying to figure out what I do so they can steal it from me, and that's where that, as you say, that the first discussions, you can make it or break it in those first discussions. Yep. So we got like a minute left. Give us one last tip on that. When you first get into a conversation, try to hash out those high-level letter of intent details, and then get everybody on the same page before getting an attorney involved. Then what happens, real quick?
Yes. Well, once the attorney gets involved, really he should be able to take that LOI and draft a document that any kind of situation, people want to work with other people they like. So having those two parties come together, get comfortable with each other, like each other, me as a buyer, I have to make the seller comfortable that I'm going to take his baby that he's grown for years, and I'm going to take care of it, and I'm going to take care of his people, and I'm not going to let his business die. So that's my responsibility. I think the seller responsibility, they need to be easy to work with, share their records, and be truthful, forthcoming, and not get an attorney involved till towards the very end when both parties have agreed. That I think that's a big deal, because I've seen a lot of deals killed by everything being so cold.
And it takes a lot.
Emails bounce. You're negotiating with a computer at that point.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work to sell your business, so you better be ready for sale when the opportunity comes along, and that's where Philip Arthurs, the business miner, comes in. And listen to the Business Miner, that's MINER podcast. And Philip, how else can they get in touch with you? What's the website?
Yeah, the website is thebusinessminer.com. There will be a page on our website, thebusinessminer.com/exit, where this show will be hosted on my website, and there'll be some freebies out there for your listeners. And anything I can do to help, I'm glad to help. I like to be a go-giver, and anything I can do to help will be my pleasure.
Sure, happy to meet you. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you'll come back again. We have a lot more to discuss, Philip. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill. It was a pleasure. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Exit Coach Radio.